Why do avoidants always come back after pushing you away? You're not imagining it. One moment they're pulling away, cold, distant, telling you they need space, that they're not ready, or that they just don't feel the same anymore. And it hurts. You start to blame yourself. You question if you were too intense, too emotional, too needy. But just when you begin to find your footing again, when you stop reaching out, when you finally begin to breathe without them, they come back. A message, a like, a sudden casual "hey," and it throws you right back into the spiral. Sound familiar? Here's the truth. Avoidants almost always return, but not for the reasons you think, and understanding why is the first step in breaking free from the cycle. I'm Jim Rohn, and in this video I'm diving deep into the psychology behind avoidant behavior, why they push you away when things feel good, and why they resurface after they've rejected you. This isn't about blaming them, and it's definitely not about teaching you how to get them back. This is about helping you see clearly, because once you understand the emotional pattern avoidants follow, you stop taking their behavior personally, and you start taking your power back. If you've ever felt stuck, waiting for someone to choose you, constantly analyzing mixed signals, walking on eggshells just to keep the peace, I want you to know this. Your desire for connection is not the problem. Your need for emotional intimacy is not too much. The problem is trying to build a secure relationship with someone who hasn't yet learned how to be present with their own emotions, let alone yours. In this video, I'll show you why avoidants reject connection even when they crave it, what really triggers their return after distancing, and, most importantly, how a secure, grounded person would respond. No chasing, no over-explaining, just calm, clear, self-respecting boundaries. So if you're ready to stop waiting for breadcrumbs and start building something real, hit subscribe. I'm here to teach you how to stop self-abandoning, communicate with strength, and attract the kind of love that actually stays. This isn't about fixing them, it's about finding you again. Let's get into it. Let me tell you something most people miss. When an avoidant partner pulls away, they often feel relief, but not resolution. And there's a huge difference. See, to someone with an avoidant attachment style, closeness doesn't feel safe. It might look like they're in control, like they're calm and composed when they take space, but inside, it's more like emotional shutdown, proximity, real emotional connection, even simple acts of intimacy. They can stir up something deeply uncomfortable in them. It's not always conscious, but what's really happening is that closeness triggers vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like danger to someone who never learned that intimacy can be safe. So what do? They create space, not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to deal with what they're feeling. That space gives them a short-term sense of calm. But here's the twist. That calm isn't peace, it's avoidance, it's distraction, it's emotional pause, not emotional growth. And this is why they often come back, not because everything is better, but because distance didn't solve what's unresolved inside them. The silence didn't quiet the discomfort, it just delayed it. Eventually, their emotional system starts to balance back out, and suddenly, they miss the connection. They remember the good parts, and without the pressure of intimacy in the moment, they feel safe reaching out again. Now, here's where you come in. Do you respond like the old version of you? Over-explaining, over-giving, hoping this time it sticks? Or do you pause and choose to respond from your power? Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And when you start acting from awareness instead of anxiety, everything changes. If you've been on the receiving end of this kind of emotional push-pull, I want to hear from you. What do you usually do when they return? Drop a comment below. I read every one, seriously. And if this is hitting a nerve, don't just scroll, hit subscribe. Because this channel isn't about fixing people who can't meet you. It's about helping you meet yourself. Keep watching. The real shift starts now. One of the most overlooked reasons avoidants come back is this quiet assumption they've been carrying all along, that you'll still be there. See, when someone with an avoidant attachment style pulls away, It's rarely with the intention of letting go forever. What they often count on, consciously or not, is the belief that you'll wait. Why? Because you did before. You gave, you tried, you forgave things you didn't talk about out loud, and while you were working overtime to keep the connection alive, they were getting used to that dynamic. They built a story in their head that said, I can come back when I'm ready, they'll still be there. And that's exactly what happens. Weeks go by, maybe months. Enough time for their emotional intensity to settle, enough space for them to start romanticizing what they had with you, now that the pressure is off, and when that internal tension softens, they convince themselves the timing is right. So they show back up, expecting a door that's still open, a bond that never changed. But what they don't account for, what completely throws them off, is that you have changed. By the time they return, you've likely done work they haven't even begun. Or you've cried, healed, maybe even rebuilt parts of yourself they never really saw. And now when they reach out, it's not just about them anymore. It's about whether you still want this and whether you're willing to re-enter a pattern you've worked so hard to grow out of. That's the moment when the power shifts, not in a vengeful way, but in a grounded, deeply self-respecting way. And if you've ever had someone reappear out of nowhere just as you started to move on, I want you to drop a comment and tell me what that moment felt like. Because so many people think they're the only one who's gone through this, and they're not. Keep watching, because what I'm about to share next will show you exactly how to respond with strength, not scarcity. Here's what almost no one tells you about avoidance, and it might be the missing piece you've been trying to make sense of. Their emotional processing is delayed. Not a little, a lot. When an avoidant partner pulls away, it often looks like they've made up their mind, like they've shut the door, locked it, and walked away without flinching. But that appearance is misleading. What's actually happening is a kind of emotional backlog. They don't process pain, longing, or connection in real time. Instead, they suppress, compartmentalize, and push forward under the illusion that they're unaffected. That distance gives them a false sense of clarity. Until it doesn't. Because weeks, even months later, the feelings they buried start to resurface. At first it's subtle, a memory, a song, a photo, but eventually it hits them, the depth of what they walked away from. And here's where it gets interesting. They don't always know why they suddenly miss you, or why the relationship feels more important now than it did when they ended it. It's because the emotional truth was never gone, it was just muted. And now that their nervous system has calmed, those truths begin to rise. And when they do, it hits hard. That's when the panic sets in. That's when they start to realize, wait, this might have been real, and I might have been the one who pushed it away. But by that time, you've changed. Maybe you're not waiting anymore. Maybe the silence that used to feel unbearable now feels like peace. That moment, when their emotional walls start to crumble, is exactly when they reach out. And what you do next, that's everything. So I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone come back just as you stopped needing them to? Tell me in the comments. Your story might be the one someone else needs to hear tonight. And if this is resonating, don't scroll, hit that subscribe button. Because the next part, I'm going to show you how to respond like someone who finally knows their worth. Something powerful shifts when the person who was once always available suddenly isn't. And if you've ever pulled back emotionally from someone avoidant, not out of manipulation but because you finally hit your breaking point, you've likely seen this shift firsthand. It catches them off guard. Up until now, they were used to you being emotionally accessible. You reached out, you explained, you tried, you showed up again and again, sometimes even after being met with distance, silence, or mixed signals. They didn't just notice this, they built their entire sense of comfort around it. So when you step back and say, I'm not doing this anymore, it rewrites the entire script. Suddenly, they're no longer the one with the emotional upper hand. And that shift is jarring for someone who has relied on a dynamic where they could engage or disengage on their terms. For the first time, the avoidant is faced with the reality they've been denying. that you are not a constant, that your patience is not infinite. And this wakes them up, not always to love, but to loss. And that's a very different feeling. That's when they start to feel panic, not because you did something wrong, but because you finally stopped doing everything. You stopped over-functioning. You stopped trying to hold both ends of the relationship. And now, you've become the one they can't quite read. And if there's one thing avoidants aren't used to, it's uncertainty that doesn't work in their favor. That's when the fear kicks in. They feel it in their chest. Wait, am I actually losing them? That's the moment they realize their power over the connection is fading, and your power, the quiet kind that comes from healing, is starting to show. And yet many still can't admit the full truth. Because to admit they're losing you would also mean admitting they've been the one holding love at arm's length all along. That their avoidant patterns haven't protected them, they've cost them. And when the cost is someone like you, someone who genuinely showed up, that's a hard thing to sit with. So they double down, justify, distract, anything but take ownership. But you don't have to stay caught in that loop. If you've ever been there, if you've seen this emotional shift happen after you finally pulled back, leave a comment and tell me what changed for you. Someone out there needs to hear how powerful that moment can be. And if you're starting to feel a fire in your chest, the kind that says, "I'm done begging to be chosen," then hit subscribe. Because what I'm about to share next, it'll help you stop reacting from pain and start responding from self-worth. Here's where everything starts to shift. Not just in the dynamic, but in you. Because once you stop chasing someone who doesn't know how to meet you, you begin to realize something that no one ever taught you clearly. Your emotional availability is a gift, not a weakness. The love you offered wasn't the problem. The problem was offering it to someone who wasn't ready to hold it. So now, when they come back around, unsure, suddenly interested, maybe even panicked, it's no longer flattering. It's confronting. Because you've started to see that real connection can't exist in a space where you're constantly the one overreaching, over-explaining, or hoping they finally wake up to what was there all along. And maybe a part of you still wonders, should I give them another chance? That's normal. That's human. But I want you to ask yourself something deeper. Do I want to reconnect, or do I just want closure from someone who never gave me any? Because there's a difference. And that difference will protect your heart in ways your old self didn't yet know how to. You don't need to pretend to be cold. You don't need to punish them. You just need to stay connected to your truth. That means responding from clarity, not confusion. That means noticing the part of you that still craves their validation and lovingly saying, "We're not outsourcing our worth anymore." If this is hitting home, I want to hear your truth in the comments. What's one thing you've realized about yourself since stepping back from that dynamic? Share it. Someone else needs to know they're not alone in this process. And if this is the wake-up call you didn't know you needed, don't scroll past it. Hit that subscribe button, because in the next part I'm going to give you real-world scripts and responses. A step-by-step breakdown of how a secure person handles the avoidance return without losing themselves in the process. So if you've made it this far, I want to thank you from the heart for giving yourself the space to really look at this. We've unpacked a lot. The emotional avoidance that pushes connection away, the false sense of control that makes them think they can return on their timeline, the delayed feelings they mistake for clarity, and most of all, the moment everything shifts, when you finally stop trying to prove your worth. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that love doesn't have to be earned through exhaustion. Real connection doesn't ask you to chase it. And your emotional depth is not something to tone down just to keep someone comfortable. When you step back from inconsistent love, you don't lose them, you find you. That's the real win here. So if any part of this resonated, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know what stood out or what part of your story this video spoke to. I read every single one because your voice matters here. And if you want more grounded, secure, no-nonsense insight on how to stop overfunctioning and start showing up from your worth, go ahead and hit subscribe. This channel is about helping you navigate love without losing yourself. Thank you again for watching, and remember, clarity is kind. You deserve connection that doesn't disappear.